Hey, Craig, you want to have a catch?
I'd like that.
Let's do it. Having a catch with Craig Colby, the author of All Caps Stories That Justify an Outrageous Hat Collection. All right, Craig, welcome to the show. I'd say season premiere, but this is technically these are specials now, so this is like big time stuff.
I'm very happy to do anything that makes me feel more special.
So we're leading into the All-Star game tonight. Craig wrote an amazing book that we're going to talk about. We'll talk about some other things later. But first thing I wanted to ask you, Craig, is that before you had any idea that you were going to write a book, you did something kind of unique at the beginning of the pandemic involving hats. So tell us a little bit about that and kind of what inspired writing this book.
Well, when the pandemic hit, I'm a television producer, and I had a great gig lined up. I was going to direct a 2-camera shoot on a luxury cruise ship that was going from Argentina to Portugal, 5 days off in the middle of the Atlantic. Then I was going to write the show and take it through the edit suite. It was 5 months of work for Discovery Channel, like the best gig I could ever have. And then, I could see what was coming. Are we still going? Are we still going? And then the cruise ships went away, and then the series went away, and then they got rid of all of the people at that production company. And, other production companies I'd worked at went under. That happened eventually. But in the early days, I saw all the work disappear, and I sat down at my desk behind me and tried to figure out how I could jumpstart things. But over to this side, I have my rack of hats. It's a hanging collection. That's where my on-duty hats are, the ones I go to all the time. So I was sitting there, I said, I'm going to wear a different hat every day until we get to be together again. And I just took the first hat and put it down and took a picture of it. It was a Pittsburgh Pirates 1970s pillbox hat, stovepipe hat, whatever you want to call it, the old prison style, and put it up on Facebook. Didn't think anything about it. And that day, a bunch of people put their own hats up there. So every day I would put up a hat, and people would share their own hat, and we would have this little hat club, connection club, where we would find a way to connect to each other. And as we went on, I started telling more stories with the hats about who I was with, where I got them, events, people, places, all of those things. So while we were going through this time of isolation, I was connecting to other people. Every day I was having a connection with people. I was also connecting to my own history. I was feeling parts of my own past. So in this isolation, I was really forming bonds and things that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't had this random thought to wear a different hat and put it on Facebook.
So at what point did this project, if you will, where you're connecting with these people, sharing hats, become pen to paper?
Well, after I had finished, 125 days later, and everybody who was sharing hats had long since run out of hats. And I was a little embarrassed. I thought in my industry, I'm now going to be the crazy hat guy. My cousin Julie, a bunch of people, first of all, they said, I'm sad it's over. And these weren't people sharing. These weren't people even clicking like. These were just people out there I didn't even know were reading. They said, I'm sad it's over. My wife's cousin Deb said that it had replaced the horoscope as the first thing she read in the morning. And my cousin Julie said, well, this should be a book. And I said, no one's going to read this book. Of course, this is all happening in the comment section. And a whole bunch of people said they'd read it. And then my mom, who writes a column for the paper, I did for years and has published her own books, said, I want you to do it. And she's 87. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do this for my mom. So I said, if I can get permission from all the rights owners of the logos. So I approached New Era Hats first. They totally got it. They were on board. And then, can't remember the order of the leagues, but Major League Baseball, the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, Minor League Baseball, the Canadian Football League, all these independent teams, Thunder Bay Whiskey Jacks, logo owner, the Thunder Bay Border Cats, Shakespeare's Globe Theater, Peterbilt trucks, Everybody said yes, except for a prominent entertainment company. I won't say their name, but they sound like Harville. And there was a prominent hero's symbol on the front of the hat. Um, and I won't say that name, but it rhymes with Baptin Tamerica. So I had all of those. And once I had permission, people started asking, I want to see what you've written. So I started writing the book. And so pen to paper probably started a little bit in the fall of 21, but really in earnest after Christmas 2021, where I had to time block and really dig in and write.
One of the things that I loved about learning about this process is that you actually asked me about a year ago to be a beta reader for this project, and I enjoyed getting to know you a little bit better, and obviously seeing all those wonderful hats in there. Um, I think I heard this morning, I was listening to one of your other interviews, that there were 11 different drafts of this book. Is that correct?
That's about right. I mean, you saw the second draft, and I chose you because you don't know my story. And, we were noddingly familiar through Facebook. So I needed somebody to come to it cold to see if it's interesting or not to begin with, and somebody who was in the target market. So that was the second draft, and I sent it to 7 people. Three of them are professional writers, so I wanted professional writer opinions. A few of them are just sports fans. One is someone who's really smart, good media person, not a sportsman, a woman, because women buy the most books. And then 2 people, you and one other person, who are sports fans and are the likely market for the book. So I took everybody's comments when they came in, and that was 5 more drafts, right? And then, or 6 more, 5 more drafts. And then I took that draft, and somebody referred me to a publisher. The publisher didn't want the book, which is fair enough. And they gave me some notes, and then I forced them into getting on a call with me to give me even more notes. I wanted them to, I think they were afraid of being rude, but I wanted fair comment. They're the most objective people. They don't know me. They see all kinds of books. They see, the top writers. So I pushed them for more comments. I wrote another draft, the 8th draft. And then I gave it to a friend of mine, volunteered to copyright it. She's a professional writer. She works in communication. She's written for print. She's written for television. She did a copy edit, and she gave me a lot of notes that actually made the book a lot better. That was 9 drafts. And then I went to the publishing company. They gave basically copy edit notes that had been thoroughly rewritten. But I went through that again and did another copy editing draft through that. That was 10. And then the book is color pictures, so there are a lot of it's expensive, so I wanted to cut it back so that people didn't pay too much money for it, and did another copy edit, and that was 11 drafts.
And that was actually going to be my next question. You did something really unique. I wrote a book in 2008 that had a lot of color pictures, so I had to cut costs in different ways. I just ended up printing less books. But you did something pretty unique that I haven't seen in a book that I read recently. You put basically like QR codes in there with a lot of the content that maybe didn't make it. So that's really cool. So in a sense, you really didn't cut anything. You still have given us access to a lot of these other stories.
Well, if there are people out there who want to see the hats, you can. And there's a Montreal tailor, Pellegrino Castronovo, brilliant guy. I had interviewed him for the Business Heroes, a podcast that I do. And we were talking about the book, and he liked the way I told the stories personally. He suggested I make the videos to augment it. I said, well, I want people to read the book, but I created videos that would add pictures that I didn't want to put in because it was more color pictures, that it slowed down the book. So I added more pictures, more context, more content, and all the pages that were not used, you can read at the end by just going to a QR code. So if you're a real hat person and you want to see what hats were left out, there are hats in there, and some hats with some really good stories too.
Nice. So later in the show, Craig and I are actually going to share some of our favorite caps. I've got like 4 or 5 here, and Craig's going to show some of his here. Craig, do you mind? You want to take a question from someone who's watching?
I'd love to.
All right, I'll actually throw it right up on the screen here. This is from Tom McLean. Craig asks, "Do all of your caps have stories, or is it like a few of mine bought online, can't even remember where?" I think we all have some of those.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. Um, some of the assigning the hats to stories was a little fluid, um, but none of them disingenuine. Every story isn't I remember where I was when I got it. I got it here. It's what are the associations with that hat that give it meaning to me. So I don't necessarily remember where I got everyone, although I will tell you about the one I'm wearing a little later. So no, I don't remember where I got all of them. Every once in a while, one pops up and I go, where did that come from? But I would say almost all of them.
I actually, at one point, I don't know if I can do it now, but at one point in my life, I could pretty much tell you where and when I bought every record I ever bought.
I can get that. I'll
Like,
tell you one thing, Tim. I always make sure I have a Detroit Tigers home and road new era 5950, and I have a bunch of them, and I can't tell you where I got all of those. I just knew I got it when the old one was getting no longer pristine.
now, so this isn't necessarily related to the book, but this is something that I wanted to bring up to you. You and I have one thing in common, is that we both have cheese names. Now, you're probably thinking like Buckholz isn't a cheese name, but I'm going to ask you about your nickname. You've been known as Swiss for many, many years.
Yep.
So tell us, I mean, obviously your name's Craig Colby, so tell us a little bit about that, and then I'll kind of share where mine comes in.
Well, I worked at a place called, for the Americans in the audience, a place called TSN, and that is the Canadian equivalent of ESPN. I worked on Sports Desk, which later became Sports Center because ESPN bought an interest in TSN. And when you walked in, they said you got to get a nickname, and you give us a nickname or we'll give you one. Well, one of the rules is you cannot pick your own nickname. I don't like that at all. I threw them one that I had in high school, but they were having none of that, and they shouldn't have. But I had a roommate in university. He lived right next door to me and then was my roommate for a while. His nickname was Spew. And here's what I learned from Spew. If you get a nickname that's not too bad, you go with it, right? You don't object, you ride with it. So because my last name is a cheese, Swiss, last name is a cheese, Colby, they called me Swiss. Now, that newsroom was a tough room to work in. This story isn't in this book, but it may be in the next one. It was a tough room to work with. It was all people in their early 20s, underpaid, few opportunities, very competitive, and it could be a tough, mean room. And I knew that they didn't call me Camembert, they didn't call me Brie, they called me the cheese with a bunch of holes in it, so they could say I had a bunch of holes in my game. And I was new, so I was on the curve and I was working 2 jobs, so I didn't get much sleep. I'm not saying they were wrong at the time, but I just said, sounds great. Swiss, sure. And then everybody started calling me Swiss. And most people don't remember the origin of that name. They just called me Swiss. People would call me Swiss without knowing my real name. So I really like Swiss. When people call me Swiss, they are long relationships. And it reminds me of, even though the room was tough, it was a good time watching baseball and hockey and football and the NBA every night. For the first year and a bit, I watched between 2 and 4 games a night. Got paid, not much, but got paid to do it.
Nice. So back in this goes back 25 years when I worked in a call center environment, and there's probably 200 people on the floor I worked with, and there was one guy that kind of worked kitty corner for me. He was the only non-Italian in this team. It was myself, this friend of mine named Bob, and then this guy named Bill. Bill would refer to me and Bob as Bobby Romano and Joey Parmesan. Just that was his contribution to remind us that we were Italian. So to kind of humor him, we just started calling him Billy Mozzarella. But there's people to this day that still think that's my last name. Like they know me from that call center environment. Like someone came and saw me at UW Milwaukee a couple years ago, or a couple years after that. And he said, "Is Joey Parm here?" And they're like,
Joey
"Who?"
Parm.
Joey Parm, because that's kind of it shortened from Joey Parmesan to Joey Parm to just Parm. So it'd be like, I think his last name is Parm or Parma. I'm like, oh no, okay, I know who this is. I knew who this is.
And I think Joey Parm is an awesome nickname.
It's actually like I use that. I've had several emails. Joey Parm, Joey Parmesan. My TikTok is Joey Parm. And yeah, I just kind of suck. And then actually, sadly, Bob passed away about 4 years ago. The last thing he ever told me, when he came out of remission, he was actually doing well. He passed away from colon cancer. He said, keep the cheese names alive. So I've met several people since he passed where I said, I'm going to give you this name. And it's, once you're in this cheese mafia, you can't go back. So, yeah, like there's still people that call me that.
I would like to be in that cheese mafia. I would be honored.
Yeah,
to be just some sort of.
We're going to make that happen at some point.
If I can be the Canadian branch of the part.
What's that?
If I can be the Canadian branch of the. If I can be the man from Toronto.
There you go.
Toronto, as we say in Toronto.
You're gonna help us recruit on that level. So I have another question from Tom.
Yes.
Tom asked, because like I wear different hats every day. He says, are you like Joe, wearing a new team every day, or do you only wear baseball?
Oh no, I wear a lot more than baseball. It's kind of seasonal. As a matter of fact, the very fine hat that Joey is wearing right now, and that is a fantastic lid, if I do say so myself, is my company hat. And I've been wearing my company hat, Colby Vision. That's the logo that was designed for me by super talented Zishan Khan. So, I've got, I have hats like that. I actually have all caps I'm picking up tomorrow. So I wear all kinds of different caps. I wear work caps that are given to me. My favorite caps are my favorite teams. I do wear, the only sport I wear hats that aren't my favorite teams, like Joey, is baseball. For some reason, that seems okay to me. I would never wear a football hat that wasn't one of my favorite teams. But I think it's the fact that I've gone to 44 different stadiums, and I bought a hat at all the different stadiums except for Cleveland, that I like that. And there's just something so romantic about baseball history that makes it appealing to me. And one of the things I write about in the book is when I started traveling to different cities as a huge sports fan, as a professional sports fan, it was like going to visit other cultures, right? I was on a cultural expedition to see what Cubs fans were like. So it was nice to bring back, like people's spoon collections. I've got a spoon from Denmark. I've got a hat from this other tribe.
So tell us a little bit about Colby Vision.
Colby Vision is my own personal storytelling company. It is a video production and branching out into book production company that's basically me using my skills to help anybody who needs their story told, primarily through video, often through consulting. These days, I'm largely an executive producer. I'm an executive producer for the National Lacrosse League and Dome Productions. I forgot to check to see if we won that award. We're up for a hashtag award earlier last week. And I'm an executive producer for the Aga Khan Museum. I'm going to be an executive producer for the World Congress of Science and Factual Producers as soon as I sign the contract they sent me. And I do some, writing and production work for television. So, if you need, high-end broadcast quality production and storytelling and guidance, that's what I do. And, I've done some podcasts. Of course, now I'm selling books too. So it really is using the skills I've acquired over 30 years to do that. And of course, with my website, colbyvision.net, I've put on a lot of content that I would call it value content, not just value because it's good quality, but value because it shows my values and where I stand. And the idea behind it is to attract clients who have similar values to me, because that's when I think I love different ideas, but I think people really hit it off when they have the same values.
Now, I don't see them here in the comments, but I got a text earlier today when we started talking about having you on the show. Where can folks find this book right now, whether it's brick and mortar or online?
Well, the book hasn't even been available for a month, so I'm not sure where it is in brick and mortar. But I can tell you, and there are some other books that have been around longer with all caps in the title. If you just search all caps, it might be a little harder to find. But if you look at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, uh, pretty much anywhere you buy books online, I just found out it's on Booktopia in Australia. You'll find the book, but the easiest place to know where you can get it is to go to colbyvision.net/all caps. And I've listed all the places that you can buy the book. I've also listed all the upcoming events where I'll be signing the book and doing book readings and having talks. And there are some comments from people who have viewed it. Primarily, there's an Olympic athlete and some sportscasters who've read the book and liked it.
We're going to share that link after the show between now and first pitch tonight. We're going to post that again, the colbyvision.net, where it's basically going to tell you everywhere we can find the book. So another question I have from writer to writer, do you plan on keep writing?
Yes, I do. I have the next book pretty much ready. It'll need a little bit more work, but earlier this year, I wrote a article just for my website called The Unqualified Hockey Coach, and I shared it in coaching forums on Facebook, and it really took off. Thousands of people read it, and they were sharing it in coaching communities, which was, reinforcing before my first book comes out. And I have some other short stories about meeting Bruce Springsteen, like 12 Seconds with the Boss, my car dying, my heroic, tragic marathon experience, things like that. So I'm going to my next plan is to publish The Unqualified Hockey Coach and other stories. And that would be a less expensive book, something easier for people to manage financially. I'd like to get that out. And then I have a book I'd like to write about working in television called The Rise and Fall of Television and My Career with It. I love these books that are about workplaces and places in time. And I think I could do something that would show a place and time that doesn't exist anymore and won't exist again. And then I've got some other things planned after that. So I plan to keep writing. But of course, a lot of it depends on how this book does.
And I'll save any of the questions I had about TV for the next time I have you on when we talk about that project. But
a couple years down the road, brother.
One of the other questions I wanted to ask you about this book is you have got some events you had kind of briefly mentioned coming up, some book signings and other events. You want to talk about some of those things coming up for you?
Sure. Well, the book is really about connections, and I was trying to think of the most meaningful place I could have an event. So we're debuting the book in my neighborhood pub. It's called The Wally. When I walk in there, Dora gives me a hug. She hugs my kid. She asks about my family. She calls my wife lovely. Everybody in the neighborhood knows the place. So this coming Saturday, July 23rd, we're having the launch party at the Wally from 2 to 4 in the afternoon. Not their busy time, bringing some business for them, but a good time where people are running around doing the errands. There is a cafe that's owned by a family. I used to coach their kids in hockey. It's called the Radio Station Cafe. That is July 27th. Back up in Thunder Bay, where a lot of the book takes place, on August 4th. I'm at Entership Books on August 6th. I'm at Goods and Company, the old Eaton's. And the things that haven't been announced yet, I'm going to be doing an author talk at the Waverly Public Library. I used to go sign up books as a kid, and have a wrap party at the Hodder Avenue bar, where one of the early scenes in the book takes place. And then Staples, who I've done some events with in the past, is hosting a session on August 17th at Corktown in Toronto. So those are the ones that are set up now, and more coming for people in the region.
I just want to let you know that you have an open invite to do a book reading here in the Utopian Baseball Universe anytime you want. I'd love to have you read from the book and talk more about it. You want to show?
I'll tell you what I'll do, Joey. Here's what I will do for the Utopian Baseball Universe. In August, once I get some things off my plate, I will give away 2 Apple ebooks to people in the Utopian Baseball Universe who will share a story of their favorite hat. I'll pick the 2 best hat stories, and you will get an Apple ebook version of the book.
That's a great idea. Oh, that's awesome, and people are going to jump all over that. People, one thing I've learned about this group, and I love them. They're like family. They love giveaways. They love interaction. So that's an awesome idea. Hey, do you want to show some of the people that are watching some of our hats?
Oh, yes. I thought you were asking the people watch show their hats. So, yeah, let's look at some hats. I tried to pick them hats that this audience would get. And so here's one right here. How many of you, when you were a kid, had one of these hard plastic helmets, right? This is probably the first hat I remember having, and I'm not even sure it was mine. I think my brother Jim got it when he went to a baseball game with my dad and my grandfather. It had a hole right here where somebody probably threw a rock at one of us. And, I got this one at Comerica Park. I saw it there, and uh, it brought memories rushing back of being a young boy in Michigan when I was 5 years old. The Tigers won the World Series. I can tell you I don't remember anything about the games from that age. I wasn't really much of a baseball fan, but I remember the feeling. I remember that the Tigers were everywhere and everything. Even at 4 years old, I was aware of the riots in Detroit. I lived in Ann Arbor, just 40 minutes down the road, there were riots in Detroit. And I was one of the first kids who was in a busing school. So, but I remember that everybody loved the Tigers. I love the Tigers, even without watching. They were like superheroes to us. So this one for sure, I bought it so that my kids would wear it. They have never worn it once. And the reason is it's not really a very good hat. These little things in the bottom, they poke you in the back of the head, and it's not a comfortable hat at all. So, but it's a Detroit Tiger hat, and it's the first Detroit Tiger hat, and I love the Detroit Tiger hats. They're my favorite by far. They are the best hat in baseball. Prove me wrong.
I'm going to actually, the first hat I'm going to share is going to be a Tigers hat as well.
Oh, I look forward to that.
So I've been collecting for the last probably 12 months or so. They're called New Era Rustic.
Ooh. All right.
And sadly, like when I started buying these, I thought that they would have these in every team, and I can only find about probably 12 to 16 teams that they have these for. But this is one of my favorites. Again, that classic stylized
the old English D.
Yeah, orange.
Oh,
rim.
I love the orange underbrim.
But I'm not a big fan of the mesh caps, but these I love. And I've got probably, 10 or 12 of these. And I started researching some of the other teams. Like I wanted to get Philadelphia and Montreal. They're just not available. I think at some point they just stopped production on a lot of those teams because they weren't selling. But yeah, this is one of my favorites, actually. This is one of the more recent ones that I got.
Yeah, I do not like the trucker caps because they were terrible when we were growing up. I hated them. I wanted a good cap. But they've made a much higher quality mesh on these that's more comfortable. It doesn't feel like that cheap plastic stuff you would use to sort of filter pond scum with. So that's that one. Okay, I've tried to pick a hat that doesn't have a story in the book, but has a good story. This was after I started writing the book, and I had a Washington story I told. But one of the things, I mentioned the World Congress of Science and Factual Producers, which is a conference where the best broadcasters and producers of science and history and other type of environmental factual content get together every year in a different place. When the pandemic hit, nobody was going anywhere. It was supposed to be in France. No one was going to France. So they hired me to produce their big interviews. So, I mean, this is like the BBC and NHK and the CBC and National Geographic and the Smithsonian Institution. They hired me to produce the interviews to present to all of these people. And we interviewed Bill Gates. My kids stayed home from school to watch Bill Gates dial into our computer. We also interviewed Dr. Fauci. And the person who hired me, Paul Lewis, is not a baseball fan, but I knew enough about Fauci to know he was a huge Washington Nationals fan. So I said, Paul, I'm wearing this Washington Nationals hat. Is it, just to warm him up, see if he notices. Because it was like a Skype call. So you see everybody, and then they minimize me and the host and everything. So Fauci comes on. He looks at his piece of paper. Who am I talking to now? Because he has all the interviews lined up like planes at an airport. So he looks down, he looks, okay, this is World Congress time. All right. Then he looks up and he sees my hat and he says, "Young man, are you trying to ingratiate yourself to me with that hat?" And I said, "That is exactly what I'm trying to do, Dr. Fauci. I'm a big admirer of what you've done. I really appreciate all you're doing on my behalf. And I just wore this hat so I could tip my cap to you at this time." And he said, "Well, you look great in that hat, young man." And he was in a great mood, and we got a great interview for it. And afterwards, my boss, Paul Lewis, who's my former boss, he said, "That was brilliant." So it's just one of my tricks to interviewing is always try to build any little connection you can first to make people more comfortable. Not that you ever have to make Dr. Fauci comfortable. He knows this, but it worked like a charm.
Nice.
Thank you,
I'm
Washington
gonna
Nationals.
slip this on before I introduce the other one, just as kind of get the different feels. But yeah, this is I love this one
It's
a
a
lot.
beauty. It's a beauty.
You and I both love 47 brand.
Yes.
And this is one of my favorite 47 brands, the Cincinnati Reds. I'm not a Reds fan at all, but like I just have such an appreciation for the history of that team, and I love the colors, and I love Pete Rose as a kid. So this is the 47 that I'm going to share with you today.
Love 47 brand. Their hats are so good.
You can't really tell, and maybe it's a good thing, but like there's so much sweat on this thing. But I'm going to slip it on anyway.
It's a beauty. I love it. So this one I picked particularly for you, one of your two loves, right? The Milwaukee Brewers. And I have made mistakes with Milwaukee Brewer hats. I'm going to own up to that right now. I have 4 Milwaukee Brewer hats, and I don't have the Milwaukee Brewer hat that I actually really like. Because the rule I had for myself is I'm going to buy the hat they're wearing at the time. So I have probably the worst Milwaukee Brewer hat, the sort of block M. They didn't like it. They didn't wear it very long. The hardcore collectors likes that. So, but I didn't. And so I never bought the Glove MB one that I really liked. But the time that I bought this one was when Miller Park had just opened up. I do like this one. I like the stylized M. I love the
too.
gold. I like the wheat, the little grain strand there. I love it. I think it's a beautiful hat. I like to wear it. But I was wearing this hat, and it was right when Miller Park opened. And so at the end of every game, they would open and close, or if it was open, they would close it. If it was closed, they would open. They would open the roof so everyone could watch it. So we were standing there watching the roof open, and some guy behind me looks up and goes, "Wow, look at that tech! Look at that! This could only happen in the United States." And I'm from Toronto, right? It was, I think, 2001 when it opened up, and Skydome opened in 1989. So I turned around to him and I said, "Well, they've actually had this technology in Toronto and Canada for 12 years." And he thought for a minute and he went, "It's probably American technology."
He had to get that last one in there.
Yeah, as an American growing up in Canada, where all the Canadians resented this sort of ugly Americanism, I took that personally. I didn't say anything because I knew where it would go. So I did the Canadian part of me and just kept my mouth shut.
So the next one I'm going to share is actually a brewer's hat as well. I'm not a big fan of the fitted hats because I'm a hair chameleon. Like my hair is going to be long in like 3 months, and then it's going to be bald, and then it'll But I'm a 7 3/8. If anyone birthday's coming up, this is
That's the one I wanted.
Yep, this is the one I bought at a 2018 playoff game, and this pin I think was a giveaway. It says MLB postseason on it, but they don't look right on my head for some reason. Like I even did this for my sister one day, and she's like, "Yeah, take that off," but it accentuates my forehead. So I usually use these for display. Like my cat sleeps on these, but I love having them. I have one for the A's, Pirates. Usually I buy these when I visit ballparks. It's like the ones I want to wear, I'll get online, or if I see them at a lid store or across from Wrigley Field. But usually for the fitted ones, I usually get those at the ballpark because they usually tend to have like the higher end hat anyway. So.
Well, I love the New Era 5950 hat. It's the first hat I fell in love with. That's the one that showed me that, hats could be art and architecture, but they give you a different profile for sure.
Yeah.
Um, I think we said we were going to do like 3 baseball hats and then one alternate. Was it 4 hats or 5 hats we were doing?
I said 4 or 5. I got 2 more. I just
All
wrote
right.
the baseball ones today because that's where my heart is.
I got 2, and I'm going to do them both at once because one relates to the other.
All right.
We both talked about our love of 47 brand. When I was approaching people about the book, the people at Mint Green Group, which is the Canadian represents 47 brand, they gave me permission, and then they sent me hats, and they said what seems like. So they sent me this Toronto Raptor hats. I'm a Toronto Raptor fan because I said, I'd really love like a 47 brand Raptor hat because I have some structured Raptor hats. I have the championship hat, which is glorious. But I thought they would send me the cleanup hat, but they sent me the MVP. I wanted an unstructured hat because I like to throw them in my bag when I travel. So they sent me this structured hat, and it's beautiful. I love it. It's not what I wanted. So I told my son, Curtis, who became a real big Raptor fan, they said, we'll share this hat, right? You and I can share this hat. And then, I have 125 hats, right? So, and, I have tested the patience of my spouse with this, and I know it. She's been great, but, so I ordered a 47 brand cleanup, not MVP, unstructured Raptor hat. And I thought, she won't notice. And I don't mind saying this because she's not going to watch this interview. She's not impressed with me anymore. But, I would have to pay for shipping. So if I bought another hat, I didn't have to pay for shipping, right? So I looked through the Detroit Tiger hats, and at the time, 47 brand had all these different collections. I was never a big fashion hat guy, but they had this beauty, and it was in the charcoal collection, right? They've had these different, I think it was a raspberry collection and stuff like that. So I thought, wow, that looks really nice. I ordered it, and of course I put it on right away. And Nancy did not notice the other Raptor cap, but this one she noticed. And she said, what are you doing with another hat? Right? It's 2021. My full work hasn't returned yet. Probably shouldn't be spending that money anyway. But, I was getting some work. We were doing okay. So I just said to her, but Nancy, it's the charcoal collection. I think it was at dinner with the kids, and the kids broke out laughing. So the kids have, but it's the charcoal collection has always been sort of a little throw-in they will do, often randomly and often with, justifying excessive purchases. So, I had to have the charcoal collection.
I'm gonna have to look at those because what you're wearing right now is fantastic.
Isn't it great?
And it looks like it would just kind of go with everything. Not that that's my thing. I don't care if I coordinate or not, but it just looks really good.
Well, it's funny how once you can coordinate, you do coordinate.
Now I have to not honor a bet. I'm in another group where we kind of trash talk amongst NL East fans, and I made some silly comments about the Braves, and so I have to put this hat on. This is my favorite Braves version. This is a new era. But I love this cap, and I every time I go live now in the group for the next couple weeks, I have to put on a Braves hat. So there you go.
I wondered why you were wearing that all the time. It is the classic Hank Aaron hat.
I don't own their current version, with the capital A. I don't even own one of those. So, but
with the cursive A, you mean?
What's that?
The cursive A?
Yeah, with their current colors. This is, I think, what they wore in the 70s and maybe early.
Yeah, that's a Hank Aaron hat, right? That's a Hank Aaron 715 hat.
Yeah, exactly. So even in the Utopian Baseball universe, this is the hat I use for their logo. But I have at least I have to put it on at least once for every time I go live within the group through the end of July. So
it's a good hat.
If anyone from that group's watching, Lee or Laura or Tim, here you go. But
Lee, Laura, or Tim, I do have one of those Atlanta Braves hats. I got it at the 96 Olympics, and it was the first New Era 5950 that had the raised stitching. So I kind of was mesmerized by that.
Nice.
And can I just respond to Tom here? Yeah, no flat bills. I'm a curved brim guy. And the Lions, I have something to tell Tim about the Lions. I am a Lions fan, but here's one thing that every Lions fan knows. When you cheer for the Lions, you get another team. Every Lions fan I know has another team, every single one. I started cheering for the Steelers when I was playing football in high school. I saw them all the time. We never saw the Lions. I moved from Michigan to Thunder Bay. It was no man's land. And I was playing defense and I wasn't playing defense. I was playing defensive line. You know, they were a big, tough team and they won all the time and I saw them all the time. And then they won the Super Bowl. So I became a Steelers fan, also a Lions fan. My brother, Jim, lived near New York City. He's a Giants fan. My younger brother, Scott, is a Vikings fan. My dad, I don't know if he still is. He was a Patriots fan. He liked watching New England. And I thought, listen, that guy's been cheering for the Lions since the 1930s. He can cheer for anybody he wants. So, you know, Lions fans get another team. One
I'm a
pride,
Browns fan.
two teams.
I'm a Browns fan since 1982, and I think the same thing could be said for us. Like, I live in Wisconsin, so there's obviously that Packer connection. My family loves the Packers, but I was actually at Lambeau on Christmas night for the Browns and Packers, and everyone just assumed, oh, Packer game. I'm like, Brown game. Brown game at Lambeau. I'm a Browns fan first.
What are you doing, Joey? What are you doing?
You
should get another team too. One of our friends, one of my older brother's oldest friend, Tevis. His other team is the Jets.
I had a dream when they came back in '99. I had a dream that it was going to be the Lions and Browns in the 2002 Super Bowl, and it hasn't happened. But I'm still kind of holding out hope.
That would be a little bit of heaven for every NFL fan.
That would be awesome. I have one more hat to share. This is the last hat I ever bought. I was at Wrigley a couple days ago.
It's a beauty.
It's
who made that?
I know you talk in the book about different like structures and stuff. I don't know what you would call this. It's not as firm as the Atlanta hat. The Atlanta is a 920. This is a 3930.
Yeah, it's a low rise. It's a low front brim.
Yeah.
So that's a way for you to do a structured. That's a stretch fit hat. 3930 is a flex fit. It's a little softer. It has a lower profile. So, you know, that boxiness that you have with that hat, you don't face that. A lot of people don't like the boxiness. But here's one thing I learned online. If you really don't like the boxiness of those 5950s, take a hairdryer and aim it at that dome structure. And then it may be harder for you because you don't have a lot of head. Put it on your head while it's warm and hold it down like this, and it will round out that sort of boxy structure of it all.
My cat loves sleeping in this. I mean, that's what I've learned in the last couple of days. This is, she's very choosy, I guess. Craig, I have a couple more questions for you, baseball related.
Sure.
Now, I know you're a Tigers fan. You live in Toronto. What is your favorite?
I'm not sure if you're breaking up there or I am, but I didn't get that question.
Oh, okay. We'll try it again. So you're a Tigers fan, but you live in Toronto. And obviously you've been to a bunch of, you mentioned earlier, you've been to about 44 stadiums. What's your favorite stadium experience? Like if you had to go to one stadium this weekend, where would you go?
Well, listen, you can never remove bias. If I could go to a Tiger game, I'm always going to choose a Tiger game. But let's just throw, it's like you can't vote for yourself, right? Let's throw that out. The A+ baseball experience is Wrigley Field in the bleachers. There is nothing better than that. It's you start watching the game and then you end with the best friends you've ever had for 3 hours and you never see them again. It's there is no better experience in baseball than the Wrigley Field bleachers, and I would love to go back there in a second.
The experience I had at Wrigley 2 days ago was the best experience I've ever had at Wrigley. They've upgraded everything there. I used to not eat or go to the bathroom there because I just couldn't look at the place, but they've done some great work, and I'm going to actually go back at the end of September for I think a Philly team. Actually, Tom, who's watching right now, is going to be at the same game I'm going to be at. So Tom and I are going to have to catch up on that day. Last thing I want to ask you, Craig. I know we're talking about hats, but another thing that you and I have in common is we both do not like these City Connect jerseys.
I hate them so
fans.
much.
Yeah.
No, they are hideous, hideous. Look, and I almost feel bad for saying that because I like creativity. I do not want to be the one who stifles creativity. Um, there are exceptions to that. I'm purist in some way. I do not like that the Detroit Tigers changed the D on their home uniform. I think it's a little sacrilegious. Play with the batting practice jersey, play with the spring training jerseys all you want. Go to town on the road jerseys. Leave that home jersey alone that my grandparents watched in that uniform, right? That goes back to Hank Greenberg and Charlie Gehringer. The D's have to match? Since when? What's wrong with you people? You don't understand the relationship fans have with the team when you do something like that. But otherwise, the Miami Marlins having pink in their logo, great. Yeah, go crazy. But these City Connect uniforms are hideous. Like if I went to a Red Sox game and they were wearing their UCLA Bruins uniforms, I would want to leave. I don't go to Fenway Park for that. I go to Fenway Park to get the Red Sox experience,
Yeah.
right? I'd be mad. I think you said, who is it that wears them every Friday night?
No, well, I know the Brewers wear theirs every Friday this year.
Good. Let me know what night not to show up. Though I wouldn't wear those Brewers uniforms to a softball game. The only City Connect uniforms that I think are good are the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim's uniforms. They look really good. I'm not a big fan. I know you've got the white panel up front. I'm not a big fan of that, personal taste. But I think those uniforms actually look really sharp. And I like the Negro League throwbacks. Those are great. Throwbacks to other eras for a weekend or a day, that's fine. But these City Connect uniforms are hideous, and something needs to be done about them. Like, if you find out they're playing, don't go to that game.
I agree.
That's my opinion.
I'm not a fan
Tom,
of the NFL.
I'm with you. Ridiculous softball uniforms. Not even.
Yeah.
My softball uniforms are gorgeous. They look way better than those.
I thought the same thing when the NFL started their color rush or whatever.
Oh, the color rush jerseys are so bad.
Yeah. I was even willing at some point to like meet in the middle and say, hey, if you want to do one weekend a year, but like you said, if I'm traveling to St. Louis and it's my first time ever going to Busch Stadium, and they don't even have City Connect jerseys yet. They're going to be next year. But like if they came out in like purple or something, like I would be outraged.
Yeah, I'd be mad. That's not what I'm here for, especially these traditional teams, right? I want that experience. I want that connection. I don't want you to try to sell me some ugly jersey that somebody in marketing is justifying their existence from. They put it on their, when you've got your performance review checklist. Well, I created the City Connect jerseys for us. So that's, gets me my stretch goal. And now I can get my bonus for this year. It's just marketing make work. So.
Craig, show us that book behind you.
What's that?
Show
book?
us that book. Grab the book. Let's get people
There
excited.
It is, baby.
Yep, there we go. He's Craig Colby. The book is all caps, Stories That Justify an Outrageous Hat Collection. And like I said, between now and first pitch tonight, we're going to get links up there. Craig, I had such a blast talking to you tonight, and I can't wait to have you on again to talk about your TV career.
Joey, it's my absolute pleasure. You are such a great guy. I appreciate everything you do with the Utopian Baseball universe. I love the branding that you've done. I love that you have created a space in the world that you want to be in and invited other people to take part in it. And I just love how open you are with the things that are going on in your life. I think that's what makes you and the league appealing, is that other people see what you do and what you bring. And, they feel like, look how brave and kind and vulnerable that guy is. It makes me want to be in a world like that. So thank you for all the creation you're doing and everything that you bring. It's guys like you and what you're doing that makes the world a better place. Gives me hope.
Thanks for trying to make me cry in front of 7 strangers here. But
that was the goal.
Thank you, Craig. And Craig and I are gonna come at you with details on the giveaway in the next couple weeks. We'll shoot for August for that.
Yep, in August.
All right. Again, thank you to Craig for joining us tonight and having a catch. We'll be back in a couple months with the next episode. Everyone enjoy the All-Star game tonight, and have a good night.